During my son's wedding, his bride whispered, "Buy us a house, or I'll tell everyone I'm pregnant with your child." I calmly stood up, put my hand in my pocket, and handed her a small gift. She screamed. She was expecting money for luxury, but got sweet revenge instead. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel, and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The fabric samples lay scattered across my desk when the phone rang. I'd been comparing burgundy and navy upholstery swatches for the Scottsdale showroom, squinting at them under the fluorescent lights. Thursday afternoon, the kind of quiet February day where business hums along without crisis. Dad, are you sitting down?" Kevin's voice hit me like electricity. My son didn't call during work hours unless something had happened. "What's wrong?" I straightened in my chair, already running through possibilities. Accident, job loss, health crisis. Nothing's wrong. Everything's perfect. His words tumbled over each other, breathless. "Jessica's pregnant. We're getting married. 2 weeks from Saturday. I know it's fast, but when you know, right?" The samples slipped from my fingers. Kevin. My son, who'd stumbled through 3 failed engagements in his 20s, who'd spent the last 5 years avoiding commitment entirely. Pregnant. Married. "Kevin, that's—" I searched for words that felt genuine. "That's wonderful. I'm happy for you. I want you to meet her properly. Tonight, maybe. Can we come for dinner?" I glanced at my watch. 3:15. "Absolutely. 7 o'clock. After he hung up, I sat back in my leather chair and stared at the ceiling tiles. Kevin hadn't mentioned Jessica before last month. Now she was pregnant, and they were planning a wedding. The timeline felt compressed, rushed, but maybe that was just my old-fashioned sensibility. My late wife Anne and I had dated for 3 years before marrying. Different generation, different rules. I wanted this to work for him. I wanted it badly. The market on Camelback had decent steaks. I selected 2 ribeyes and a New York strip, grabbed asparagus and baby potatoes. Wine, I chose a Napa Cabernet, nothing too expensive but respectable. At home, I set the dining room table with Anne's china, the ivory plates with the delicate gold rim she'd received from her grandmother. If Kevin was starting a family, this moment deserved acknowledgement. Tradition mattered. They arrived exactly at 7. Kevin came through the door with that nervous energy I remembered from his childhood piano recitals, practically vibrating. The woman beside him moved differently. Smooth, controlled, her heels clicking against my tile entryway with purpose. "Dad, this is Jessica." She was striking. Dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly utility bill. Her handshake was firm, almost aggressive, and her smile stayed fixed on her mouth without reaching her eyes. "Charles, Kevin talks about you constantly." Her gaze swept past me, cataloging the living room, the furniture, the art on the walls. "What a lovely home." "Thank you. Please come in. Dinner's almost ready." Kevin hovered beside her like a satellite, watching her reactions. I led them to the dining room, where Jessica's attention immediately locked onto the china cabinet. "Interesting pieces. Are these antiques?" She moved closer to the cabinet, phone already in her hand. "Do you mind if I take a few photos? I love vintage design." Before I could answer, she was snapping pictures of the credenza, the grandfather clock in the corner, the cabinet itself. Kevin jumped in. "Jess is really into interior design. She's got amazing taste." "I'm sure she does." I headed to the kitchen, grateful for the excuse to move. Something in her tone when she said antiques hadn't sounded like admiration. It sounded like appraisal. Dinner started pleasantly enough. Kevin asked about the business, updating me on his work in commercial real estate, but Jessica dominated the conversation with surgical precision. 4 stores, Kevin mentioned. That must generate significant revenue. She cut into her steak, eyes on me. "What's the annual take for something like that?" "It varies. Economy affects furniture sales more than people realize." I kept my voice light, businesslike. "But you must do well. This neighborhood, the house, the business." She gestured with her fork. "You've built something substantial." Kevin shifted in his seat. "Dad worked incredibly hard. Built it from a single storefront." "Very impressive." Jessica sipped her wine. "We drove through Paradise Valley yesterday. Those estates are breathtaking. That's where I picture raising a family. Good schools, safe neighborhoods. Important for children, don't you think?" The implication hung between us like smoke. Kevin focused on his plate, cutting his meat into smaller and smaller pieces. Paradise Valley is expensive, I said carefully. Of course, but you can't put a price on a grandchild's future. Her hand covered Kevin's on the table. We're still figuring out our housing situation. My current rental is impossible. The landlord refuses to make basic repairs. With a baby coming, we need proper space. Kevin finally spoke. We're looking at places, Dad. Nothing fancy yet. Nothing fancy, but something safe. Jessica's smile widened. Kevin tells me you're very generous with family. That's rare these days. I took a long drink of water, buying time. Every instinct I'd honed over 40 years in business was firing warnings. These weren't casual dinner questions. She was establishing needs, testing responses, calculating possibilities. The rest of the meal passed in similar fashion. Jessica commented on the furniture, then asked what pieces cost. She mentioned her student loans, then wondered aloud how Kevin's family handled financial planning. She complimented the house, then noted how much upkeep older homes required. Kevin barely spoke. When he did, it was to soften her edges. What Jessica means is, or she's just excited about the wedding. When they finally left around 10:30, Jessica hugged me at the door. She leaned in close, her perfume overwhelming, and whispered, "Thank you for being so understanding. Kevin talks about your generosity all the time. We're lucky to have you." Kevin's hug was quick, distracted. He seemed eager to leave. I stood in the doorway watching their taillights disappear down the street. Jessica's head was already bent over her phone, illuminated by the screen's glow. Inside, I cleared the table slowly, rinsing Anne's china by hand, though the dishwasher would have been easier. My hands moved through the routine while my mind replayed the evening, the way Jessica photographed my home without asking, the pointed questions about money, about real estate, about my generosity. Kevin's silence, his hunched shoulders, the way he avoided my eyes. I told myself it was nerves, wedding stress. But my gut, the same instinct that had saved me from disastrous business partnerships, from bad investments, from deals that looked perfect on paper but felt wrong, was screaming. Something about her eyes when she looked around my home. She wasn't seeing a family house where her child's grandfather lived. She was doing math. I woke at 6 Friday morning after 3 hours of fractured sleep. Every time I drifted off, I saw Jessica's face across my dining table, heard her voice asking about revenue and real estate. The coffee maker gurgled while I sat at the kitchen table staring at the chairs where they'd sat 12 hours earlier. The details wouldn't leave me alone. The way she'd held her phone when photographing the credenza, not like someone admiring furniture, but like someone cataloging inventory. Her questions hadn't been conversational. They'd been reconnaissance. And Kevin's expression, that hollow, defensive look I'd seen before, 3 years ago when Rachel had controlled every aspect of his life. History repeating while I watched it happen. By 10 o'clock I was at my office, but the inventory reports sat ignored on my desk. I opened LinkedIn on my computer and typed Jessica Simons Phoenix into the search bar. Her profile appeared polished and professional. Spa manager at Desert Serenity Wellness Center. Photos of her at charity events, smiling beside other volunteers, glowing recommendations from colleagues. Everything looked legitimate. I scrolled deeper. Older posts, comment sections on photos, tags from other users. Patterns emerged. 2 years ago, dinner at Bourbon Steak with my generous boyfriend. 3 years ago, photos at exclusive restaurants with different men in each one. Comments from someone named Amanda kept appearing. Another rich one. You're so lucky, sis. Another. The word stuck like a barb. Another rich one. Not another great guy or another keeper. Rich. That was the qualifying characteristic. I stared at the screen, my chest tight. This felt invasive, ugly. But Kevin was my son, my only child. If someone was targeting him, if she was targeting him, I needed to know. My phone sat on the desk. I picked it up 3 times before finally scrolling through my contacts to Marcus Jennings. We'd met at business networking events, crossed paths at charity fundraisers. He worked in credit verification services. We weren't friends exactly, but we were cordial. The conversation was brief and uncomfortable. "Marcus, I need a favor. Unofficial. It's about my son's fiancée." He didn't ask why. Give me her information, Marcus called back at 4:30. Charles, this is off the record. Completely unofficial. Understand? I understand. Jessica Marie Simons. Current address lists Tempe, but that's recent. Previous address was a luxury complex in Scottsdale. She was evicted 11 months ago for non-payment. Rent was $2,800 monthly. I wrote the numbers down, my handwriting sharp and precise. She's carrying $43,000 in credit card debt across 7 different cards, all maxed. 2 collection agencies have filed legal actions. She started bankruptcy proceedings 8 months ago but never completed them. The pen stopped moving. 43,000? Classic pattern, Charles. Living beyond means for years. The income she reports doesn't match the spending. Not even close. After I hung up, I sat motionless in my office chair. $43,000 in debt. Evicted from a luxury apartment. 2 lawsuits. None of this appeared on social media, where every photo showed designer clothes and expensive dinners and weekend trips to Sedona. The pregnancy announcement, the rushed wedding, the Paradise Valley comments during dinner. She wasn't marrying Kevin. She was marrying access to money she thought he had. Or more accurately, money she thought I had. I called Kevin at 6:15 after business hours when I knew he'd be home. I'd rehearsed the conversation in my head, planned to stay calm and rational. Son, we need to talk about Jessica. Have you checked her financial background? What? His voice immediately sharpened. What are you talking about? I had someone look into her credit history. Kevin, she has substantial debt. Over $40,000. She was evicted from her previous apartment. There are collection agencies. You what? The explosion came through the phone like a physical force. You investigated her? You called in favors to spy on my fiancé? Kevin, listen to me. She has 7 maxed credit cards, 2 active lawsuits. This is serious financial trouble. And with a baby coming, how dare you? His voice cracked. Do you have any idea how controlling this is? How invasive? I'm 35 years old, Dad. I don't need you vetting my life like I'm some teenager. I'm trying to protect you. These are facts. She was paying rent she couldn't afford. She's buried in debt. You can't stand seeing me happy. You never approved of anyone I dated. Rachel, Michelle, Sarah. You found problems with all of them. This isn't about approval. I kept my voice level, fighting to stay calm. This is about a woman with a pattern of financial irresponsibility who suddenly appears pregnant and wants to get married in 2 weeks. Kevin, please, just think about the timeline. You just can't stand the thought of me being happy with someone you didn't choose. His words came out ragged, wounded. You never could. I should have known you'd find a way to ruin this. Kevin, don't call me again. The line went dead. I sat there with the phone in my hand, staring at the darkened screen. Outside my office window, the Phoenix sunset painted the sky, orange and purple, beautiful and meaningless. I pulled up Jessica's Instagram again on my computer. Every photo showed luxury, designer handbags, expensive restaurants, weekend trips to California wine country, spa days, jewelry. None of it matched a spa manager's salary. None of it made sense unless someone else was paying, or unless she was hunting for someone who would pay. The pregnancy test could be real or manufactured. The rushed wedding ensured minimal time for questions. The Paradise Valley comments were anchors, establishing expensive expectations early. Kevin's defensiveness kept interference minimal. She'd done this before. Amanda's comment proved it. Another rich one. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a legal pad, something I did when problems needed solving. At the top of the page I wrote, Jessica Simons, what I know. The list grew. Debt amounts, eviction date, the timing of her relationship with Kevin, every pointed question from last night's dinner. When I finished, 3 pages were covered in notes. Kevin wouldn't listen. That was clear. He'd chosen his side, and it wasn't mine. Which meant I had 2 weeks before the wedding. 2 weeks to find proof she was targeting him. 2 weeks to stop this before she destroyed my son. I clicked back to her Instagram, studying each photo with new eyes. Somewhere in this carefully curated performance was the truth. Somewhere was evidence. I just had to find it. A week had passed since Kevin hung up on me. 7 days of silence that felt like months. I'd left voicemails, 8 of them. The first 2 were calm, rational explanations of the credit report, By the 4th, I was pleading. By the 7th, I stopped trying to sound composed. None were returned. Thursday afternoon, I drove past Kevin's apartment in Tempe. Jessica's white BMW sat in his parking spot like a territorial marker. I circled the block twice before forcing myself to leave. Marcus called Wednesday with more information, his voice reluctant. Charles, I shouldn't tell you this, but Kevin maxed out his savings account. $47,000. Gone. For the wedding? That's not all. He took out a personal loan. $35,000 at 18% interest. Just for the reception venue. I sat in my office holding the phone long after Marcus hung up. $82,000. Kevin's entire safety net, plus debt that would take years to clear, for a wedding that would last 4 hours. The invitation arrived in Saturday's mail. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering, my name in elegant script. The Phoenician Resort, Scottsdale. Ceremony at noon, February 22nd. I searched the venue online. Their wedding packages started at $80,000. Premium upgrades, the kind Jessica would demand, pushed costs well past 6 figures. The math wouldn't work. Kevin's salary, his savings, the loan, none of it covered what I was seeing. Someone had guaranteed additional expenses. Monday morning, I called the resort's events coordinator, my voice casual. I'm inquiring about availability for my daughter's wedding. What does the Powell ceremony on the 22nd include? The woman's enthusiasm poured through the phone. Oh, the Powell wedding is beautiful. Premium everything. Open bar with top-shelf selections. Live orchestra. Imported French roses. Chef's tasting menu for 200 guests. They spared no expense. I thanked her and ended the call, my stomach hollow. Kevin was drowning and Jessica was piling stones in his pockets. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, typing messages to Kevin on my phone. Deleting them. Typing again. Deleting. Son, please call me back. Delete. Kevin, I'm worried about your finances. Delete. I love you and I'm sorry. Delete. Everything sounded either controlling or pathetic. I sent nothing. Wednesday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Charles, it's Jessica. We need to talk privately before the ceremony. It's important for Kevin's sake. Can we meet? I stared at the message for 10 minutes, reading it over and over. She was making a move, but toward what? My instinct, the same sense that had kept me from ruinous business deals for 40 years, screamed that this was negotiation, not reconciliation. I typed, when and where? Her response came within seconds. Tomorrow evening, your house? Kevin thinks I'm at my bachelorette dinner. 7 p.m. Thursday morning, I drove to an electronics store on Bell Road. The clerk was young, enthusiastic about the products arranged on gleaming shelves. I need a recording device for business meetings, I told him. He showed me a unit the size of a USB drive. This model is excellent. 20 hours of battery. Voice activated so it only records when someone's talking. Clear audio up to 15 feet. Is it legal for recording conversations? In Arizona, absolutely. One-party consent state. As long as you're part of the conversation, you can record it. I bought it immediately. In my car, I researched Arizona's recording laws on my phone. The clerk was right. One-party consent. Legal to record conversations I participated in without informing the other party. I practiced activating the device. A simple button on the side, a single red blink, then darkness. I drove home and tested it, recording myself reading the newspaper aloud, playing it back. My voice sounded strange and distant, but every word was intelligible. Whatever Jessica wanted, I'd have proof. Friday evening at 7 o'clock, I watched through my front window as Jessica's BMW pulled into my driveway. She stepped out wearing a soft pink sweater, her makeup understated, hair loose around her shoulders. She looked young, vulnerable, every detail calculated to project innocence. I activated the recorder in my jacket pocket before opening the door. The red light blinked once. Charles, thank you for seeing me. Her smile was apologetic, practiced. I know things have been tense. I led her to the living room. She settled onto the couch, accepted a glass of water, and her expression turned gentle. I owe you an apology. I was pushy at dinner. Wedding stress, you understand? I didn't mean to come across as materialistic. I watched her performance, recognizing the technique. Soften the target before the real request. I'd seen it in business negotiations dozens of times. Kevin loves you so much, she continued. This distance between you is killing him. I wanted to fix things before the wedding. Can we start over? Her eyes were wide, sincere, perfectly practiced. If I didn't know what I knew, I might have believed her. I appreciate you coming, Jessica. I want Kevin to be happy. She smiled, relief flooding her features. Then carefully, there is one small thing. Kevin's been stressed about money. The wedding costs more than we planned. She paused, letting silence do its work. I said nothing. I wondered if you might help with our housing situation after the wedding, just temporarily, until we get settled. The test, probing my willingness to provide money, measuring my resistance. We can discuss that after you're married, I said carefully. Let's focus on the wedding first. Her smile tightened. Not the answer she wanted, but she nodded and left 15 minutes later. After her taillights disappeared down the street, I sat in my darkened living room and played back the recording. Her voice emerged crystal clear, every inflection captured. Tomorrow was the wedding. Whatever Jessica really wanted, she'd ask for it then, and I'd be ready. Saturday morning arrived cold and bright. I'd slept 3 hours, spent the rest pacing my bedroom, running through scenarios. None prepared me for what was coming. The Phoenician resort spread across the base of Camelback Mountain like a palace. I pulled into the circular drive at 10 o'clock, watching valets in crisp uniforms rush toward arriving cars. Money radiated from every detail: the spotless pavement, the towering palms, the marble columns framing the entrance. Ice sculptures flanked the doorway, massive swans that must have cost thousands. Floral arrangements 12 feet tall lined the walkway, white roses and orchids arranged in cascading waves. I mentally calculated 5,000 for flowers alone, possibly more. Kevin's friends were arriving, women in designer cocktail dresses, men in expensive suits. I recognized a few faces from his college years. They looked successful, established, the kind of crowd Jessica would want as witnesses to her triumph. I touched my jacket pocket, feeling the recorder's small weight. My phone buzzed. Guest lounge, second floor, east wing. 11 a.m., alone. I walked through the venue toward the ceremony space. The ballroom had been transformed into something from a luxury magazine spread. Crystal chandeliers reflected light across hundreds of white roses. Gold chairs arranged in perfect rows for 200 guests. A string quartet warming up in the corner. Champagne fountain already flowing, bubbles catching light. Through an open door, I saw Kevin surrounded by groomsmen. He was laughing at something, adjusting his bow tie, checking his watch. He looked genuinely happy. My chest tightened watching him. At exactly 11, I climbed the staircase to the second floor. The guest lounge was empty, private, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountain. I activated the recorder. The single red blink confirmed it was working, and slipped it back into my pocket. Jessica entered at 11:03, closing the door quietly behind her. The wedding dress was stunning. Vera Wang, probably, elegant silk with intricate beading across the bodice. Her makeup was flawless, hair swept up in an elaborate updo, diamond earrings catching every movement of light. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale, but her eyes were cold mathematics. Charles, thank you for coming early. Her smile was warm, practiced. I know things have been difficult. I nodded, said nothing. She walked to the window, her voice casual. It's a beautiful day. Kevin's so happy. He wishes you two weren't fighting. I want him to be happy, I said carefully. That's all I've ever wanted. She turned, her smile never reaching her eyes. Then we should talk about how to make that happen. Permanently. The word hung between us like a suspended blade. Her tone shifted, businesslike now. Charles, let's be practical. Kevin and I need a house. Paradise Valley. At least $850,000. Jessica, that's a significant amount. She cut me off. I'm pregnant. We need proper space. You're a grandfather now. Surely that means something. I can help with a down payment. 15, maybe 20%. But purchasing an entire... That's not going to work. Her voice went cold, the mask dropping completely. She stepped closer. I saw the predator clearly now, no longer hiding. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to buy us that house. Full payment. This week. And if I don't? Her smile was sharp as broken glass. Then I tell everyone the truth, that I'm pregnant with your child. Ice flooded my veins, but I kept my voice steady. That's absurd. No one would believe. She laughed, soft and vicious. Really? Who do you think they'll believe? A 63-year-old man or a pregnant 32-year-old woman in a wedding dress? Each word was a calculated strike. I'll tell them you tried to seduce me at that first dinner, that you've been sending me inappropriate messages for weeks, that when I rejected you, you tried to sabotage our wedding with fake financial reports. My hands clenched into fists at my sides. Kevin will never speak to you again. Your business reputation destroyed. Everyone loves a scandal. Furniture magnate preys on son's pregnant fiancé. That's front page material. She paused, letting it sink in. Or you buy us a house, play the generous grandfather, and everyone's happy. Your choice. You have 60 seconds. The silence stretched thick and suffocating. I stood motionless. 3 seconds. 4. 5. Processing shock, fury, the calculated cruelty of her entire plan. Then I spoke, my voice quiet and level. Jessica, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Her smile faltered slightly. Excuse me? I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small recording device, held it up. The red recording light blinked steadily. Jessica's face drained of color, white as her wedding dress. What is that? Every word, from the moment you walked in. She lunged forward, grabbing for the device, her voice rising to a shriek. Give me that! You can't! That's illegal! I pulled back, stepped toward the door. Arizona is a one-party consent state, completely legal. You recorded me? You set me up? I opened the door. Jessica followed, still grabbing at my arm, her composure shattered. I walked quickly down the stairs toward the ceremony hall. Her screams followed me. Charles, wait! Please! We can work this out. I didn't mean... Guests in the foyer turned, staring. I didn't stop. I entered the ballroom and walked straight to the sound technician near the string quartet. Connect this to your system. Play it now. The technician looked confused. Sir, the ceremony's about to... Do it. Now. Jessica rushed in behind me, mascara starting to run, face twisted with panic. Kevin appeared from the groom's room, his expression confused. Dad? What's happening? The recording began. Jessica's voice filled the ballroom through crystal-clear speakers. Charles, let's be practical. Kevin and I need a house. Every guest froze. 200 people locked in horrified silence. The recording continued. Her pregnancy threat, the seduction accusation, the blackmail demand, every word captured with perfect clarity. Kevin stood paralyzed, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, recognition, horror. When the recording ended, silence blanketed the room like sudden snow. Jessica stumbled backward, words failing, excuses dying on her lips. Kevin stared at his bride, then at me, then back at Jessica. His voice broke. Tell me he faked that. Tell me this isn't real. Jessica opened her mouth, but no convincing lie emerged. I watched my son's face crack open, watched the illusion he'd built shatter into pieces. The wedding was over before it began. The recording's final words faded into crushing silence. I watched Kevin's face cycle through emotions like channels flipping on a television, confusion, denial, desperate hope that somehow this was fake, that his father had manufactured evidence to destroy his happiness. Jessica broke the silence first, her voice rising toward hysteria. He edited that. He manipulated the audio. Charles, how could you do this? Kevin turned to me, his eyes pleading. Dad, tell me you faked it. Please. My voice came out quiet, steady. Every word is real, Kevin, unedited. I can provide the original file, timestamps, metadata. His face hardened, not acceptance, not belief in the evidence, just a wall slamming down between us. A guest near the front whispered loudly enough to carry through the ballroom. I heard what I heard. That woman was blackmailing him. Kevin moved toward Jessica, who had begun crying, real tears streaming down her face, mascara running in careful tracks. Perfect victim performance. She clutched his arm. Kevin, he's trying to destroy us. He never wanted you to be happy. This is revenge because you chose me over him. I took a step forward. Son, listen to what she actually said. She threatened to claim you weren't the father. She demanded $850,000. Kevin's voice cracked raw with pain and fury. You always did this. Every relationship I had. You found something wrong. You can't stand seeing me with someone. The words hit like fists. This isn't about control. She was blackmailing me. You heard it. You recorded her without permission. You set her up. His eyes were wet now, voice shaking with anguish. You're jealous because you've been alone since Mom died, and you can't handle me being loved. The accusation hung poisonous in the air between us. I opened my mouth, but no response came. How do you argue with someone who's chosen their illusion over reality? Who needs the lie more than the truth? Kevin took Jessica's hand. We're leaving. Don't contact me. Ever. Jessica threw me a look over her shoulder as they walked toward the exit, calculation mixed with triumph. She'd lost the wedding, but kept her prize. Some guests remained seated, uncertain. Others began gathering belongings, avoiding eye contact with me. A woman I recognized as Jessica's friend Amanda called out, "We believe you, Jess. This is disgusting." But other guests approached me quietly. "That recording was clear. I'm sorry about your son." The resort manager appeared, uncomfortable in his crisp suit. "Mr. Powell, we'll handle the cancellation arrangements. No charge for the venue." I nodded, unable to form words. Within an hour, the ballroom emptied. I sat in one of the gold chairs, surrounded by $80,000 worth of flowers and untouched champagne fountains. My phone vibrated constantly. Texts from friends, family, people who were there. I didn't read them. A waiter approached nervously. "Sir, can I bring you anything?" I shook my head. He retreated, leaving me alone in the wedding that wasn't. I drove home in a fog, the afternoon heat shimmering off the asphalt in waves. My house felt enormous and empty when I entered, Anne's absence sharp as broken glass even after 3 years. Sunday morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Kevin's number. The message was brief, final. "I'm not your son anymore. Jessica and I are moving forward together. Don't call, don't text. You're dead to me." I read it 3 times. Each word felt permanent, carved in stone. Sunday afternoon, a friend forwarded me Jessica's Instagram post. The photo showed her in casual clothes, eyes red from crying, no makeup, calculated authenticity. The caption read, "Heartbroken doesn't begin to cover it. Kevin's father sabotaged our wedding because he couldn't accept someone loving his son. He recorded a private conversation, edited it to make me look terrible, and destroyed the happiest day of my life. To everyone asking, yes, Kevin and I are staying together. Real love survives attacks." The post had 347 likes, 89 supportive comments. I saw names I recognized, mutual acquaintances, business contacts, people who should know better. Some comments were different. I was there. That recording sounded pretty clear to me. But they were buried under Jessica's supporters. I set my phone down and didn't pick it up again for hours. Monday morning, I sat across from Richard Clark in his downtown Phoenix office. He was 58, gray suit, calculating eyes that had seen every kind of family disaster. He'd listened to the recording twice, taken notes, and now delivered his assessment. The recording is completely legal. Arizona's one-party consent law is clear. But, I waited through the pause, she can still sue you. Emotional distress, defamation, claim you recorded her in a bathroom or somewhere with expectation of privacy, even though you didn't. Make your life expensive even if she loses. So she gets away with it? Richard leaned back. Not necessarily. But you need to be smarter than just having proof. You need to build a pattern. Show this isn't an isolated incident. He slid a business card across the desk. Private investigator. Discreet. Expensive. But thorough. I pocketed the card. What am I looking for? Her history. Previous relationships. Financial records. Anything that shows this is her playbook, not a one-time mistake. If she's done this before, those men might talk. I nodded, feeling pieces of a plan forming. Richard added quietly, "And Charles, prepare yourself. Your son might not come around. Not soon. Maybe not ever." The words landed heavy and true. As I stood to leave, Richard mentioned almost casually, "One more thing. I had someone check hospital records, doctor visits. Jessica Simons hasn't seen an OBGYN in 2 years." I froze. "She's not pregnant?" "No medical evidence she is. No prenatal vitamins purchased on her insurance. No appointments. Either she's lying or she had a very recent miscarriage she hasn't mentioned." I felt fury and something like relief collide. She lied about being pregnant to pressure Kevin into marriage? That would be my assessment, which makes the blackmail even more calculated. She was building urgency around a fiction. I sat back down heavily. The cruelty of it, using a fake pregnancy to trap my son, settled over me like wet concrete. I left the lawyer's office, stepped into harsh Phoenix sunlight. I had evidence, a legal recording, proof of Jessica's manipulation, but Kevin still chose her. The victory felt like ashes. 3 manila folders spread across my desk, the private investigator's report on Jessica's past. First folder, Robert Green, 45, divorce tech executive from 2022. The PI found bank records showing Robert paid Jessica $75,000 after dating 6 months. His statement to the investigator: "She threatened to accuse me of assault if I didn't pay. I had a daughter, a business reputation. I paid to make her disappear." Second folder, Michael Torres, 51, real estate investor from 2020. Similar pattern, 4-month relationship, sudden pregnancy claim, demands for money. Michael paid $50,000 before Jessica miscarried, 2 weeks later. Third folder, David Chen, 48, restaurant chain owner from 2019. He paid $30,000 to end the relationship after she threatened workplace harassment claims. I leaned back, processing the timeline. 3 men in 5 years. $155,000 extracted through threats. Each relationship followed identical beats: charm offensive, rapid escalation, pregnancy or assault claim, payment, disappearance. The PI's notes included one chilling line: subject displays textbook predatory financial behavior. Targets men 15 to 20 years older, established wealth, family reputation to protect. Kevin fit the profile perfectly, not wealthy himself, but with a father who was. I felt sick recognizing how calculated it had been. Jessica hadn't fallen for Kevin. She'd researched him like a business investment. Wednesday afternoon, I was at my flagship furniture store reviewing inventory when my assistant approached. "Someone here to see you. Says it's personal." A woman stood near the entrance. Early 60s, gray hair and a neat bob, wearing simple slacks and a cardigan. A library book tucked under her arm. Her face was tired, kind with Jessica's cheekbones, but none of her hardness. She extended her hand. "Mr. Powell, I'm Barbara Collins, Jessica's mother. Could we speak privately?" My first instinct was suspicion. Another manipulation? But her eyes were direct, sad, genuine. I led her to my office and closed the door. Barbara sat, took a breath. "I owe you an apology, and possibly an explanation." She spoke carefully, like each word cost something. "I saw what happened at the wedding. A friend sent me the video someone posted online." I winced. I hadn't known there was video. I've watched my daughter manipulate people since she was 16. Boyfriends, employers, even me. She stole $12,000 from my savings 3 years ago. I reported it to police, then dropped charges when she cried and promised to change. Her voice didn't waver. "She's done this before. Other men. I didn't know the details, but I knew the pattern. She'd date someone wealthy. The relationship would end abruptly. Suddenly she'd have new furniture, a new car, expensive trips." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Barbara met my eyes. "Because you tried to protect your son and he rejected you for it. I know that pain. Jessica pushed me away years ago. The only time she contacts me is when she needs money or an alibi." She paused. "And because she's planning something else. I saw her text conversation with her sister Amanda." I sat forward. "What kind of conversation?" Barbara pulled out her phone, opened screenshots. "Amanda left her phone at my house last month. I looked. I know it's wrong, but I needed to know what Jessica was doing." She handed me the phone. The text thread between Jessica and Amanda read like a criminal blueprint. "Jessica, Kevin's broke now, but his dad's loaded. The recording is a problem, but I can work around it. Get Kevin to sue Charles for emotional damages. Split whatever we win." Amanda: "You think Kevin will sue his own dad?" Jessica: "He'll do whatever I tell him. He's already isolated from everyone but me. Give it 2 months, then I'll suggest he deserves compensation for childhood trauma or something. Make it about therapy costs." I read it twice, feeling cold fury build. I looked up at Barbara. "You're giving this to me. Why?" Her voice was quiet. "Because I failed as a mother somewhere. I don't know where or when, but I created this, and I can't watch her destroy more lives. This is your daughter. Yes, and I love her, but I also know she won't stop unless someone stops her. You have resources to fight back. Kevin's in danger, even if he doesn't see it yet. She added, there's more. Email threads where Jessica discusses targets. A spreadsheet of men she researched, including income estimates. She treated your son like a business acquisition. I felt something shift inside me. Not just anger, but strategy forming. Barbara visited again Thursday morning at a coffee shop I suggested. Neutral ground. She brought more evidence. Printouts of Jessica's social media from years ago. Deleted posts bragging about landing wealthy men. We sat for 2 hours, Barbara filling in gaps the PI couldn't access. I found myself talking about Kevin's childhood, my late wife, how hard I tried after she died. Barbara listened, shared her own story. Husband left when Jessica was 10. She raised both daughters alone on a librarian's salary. Jessica always wanted what we couldn't afford, Barbara said. I thought it was normal kid stuff. By the time I realized it was something else, it was too late. The conversation shifted from evidence to something more personal. 2 parents wounded by their children. Over the next week, Charles and Barbara met 3 more times. Initially to discuss strategy, share information, plan legal moves. But the conversations drifted. Books we'd read, Phoenix's relentless heat, the loneliness of empty houses. I noticed Barbara's careful intelligence, her quiet humor, the way she listened completely. She noticed my fairness, my restraint, despite having weapons to destroy Jessica legally. Neither of us named what was happening, but something was. A recognition, comfort in shared damage. Friday afternoon, Barbara emailed me a file, Jessica's project spreadsheet. I opened it, felt my blood pressure spike. Column headers, name, age, net worth, STC, vulnerabilities, timeline, expected yield. Kevin Powell, 35, $85K salary, but father owns four-mailer business. Father guilt, isolated, desperate to prove independence. 6 to 8 months, $500K, 1 9 other names were listed above Kevin's, dates going back to 2018. Most had notes. Completed 75K, completed 50K, failed, too smart, failed, had prenup. I forwarded the file to Richard immediately. This wasn't just evidence. It was a confession. Barbara and I met at the coffee shop again Friday evening. I slid my laptop across the table, showed her Richard's response. This changes everything. We can pursue fraud charges, but we need to be strategic about when we reveal this. Barbara nodded slowly. What's the goal? Protecting Kevin or punishing Jessica? I considered both, but protecting Kevin comes first, even if he hates me for it. Barbara's hand rested briefly on the table near mine. Then we do this carefully, together. The word together sat between us, meaning more than strategy. The email from my private investigator arrived Thursday morning with the subject line, New development, urgent. I opened the attachment at my office desk. Screenshots of Jessica's text conversation with a commercial realtor filled my screen. She'd found a luxury spa location in Paradise Valley. Monthly rent, $15,000. Her pitch to Kevin emerged through the messages. We'll be partners. Your business degree, my spa management experience. We just need startup capital. I scrolled further. Equipment quotes totaling $180,000. Renovation estimates of $120,000. The final text made my stomach drop. Jessica to the realtor. My fiancé is securing a $200,000 business loan. Can you hold the property for 2 weeks? I forwarded everything to Barbara and Richard immediately. An hour later, the PI's follow-up arrived, marked Confidential Smoking Gun. Attached was Jessica's LLC registration in Delaware, created 2 weeks earlier. The company name, Serenity Wellness Holdings. The registered agent wasn't Kevin. It was Jessica alone. Bank account documents showed an offshore connection in the Cayman Islands. The PI's note explained, standard setup for capital extraction. Equipment purchases get invoiced to offshore suppliers, fake companies she controls. Money disappears, business fails, she vanishes with capital. Target will be left with $200K debt and no assets. Recommend immediate intervention. I'd seen this scheme before. Contractors who defraud investors, vendors who bill for phantom supplies. Kevin wasn't a partner. He was a funding source. I called Richard. I need to stop a loan without revealing my involvement. Can it be done? He thought for a moment. Anonymous tip to the bank's risk assessment department. Include her credit history, the LLC structure, the offshore account. Banks hate fraud risk. That afternoon, I created an anonymous email account at the public library downtown. Sat at a computer terminal surrounded by teenagers doing homework and retirees reading news sites. I attached Jessica's credit report, the one Marcus had provided months ago, plus screenshots of the Delaware LLC showing her sole ownership, and the Cayman Islands account documentation. Subject line, Fraud Alert, Kevin Powell, Loan Application. Body text, the supposed business partner Jessica Simons has 43K in existing debt, an offshore account, and sole control of the LLC. Mr. Powell believes they co-own. Recommend reviewing for fraud indicators. I hit send before I could second-guess the decision. 2 days later, Kevin's number appeared on my caller ID. I didn't answer. He would only call if he needed something or wanted to yell. The voicemail he left was brief, angry. I know you did this. The bank rejected my loan. They said someone sent them information about Jessica. This is low, even for you. I saved the voicemail. An hour later, Jessica called from Kevin's phone. Charles, we need to talk about boundaries. You're interfering with Kevin's business decisions now? I didn't answer that call either. The following week, Jessica began appearing in my orbit, too frequently to be coincidence. Monday morning, she was at the coffee shop I frequented before work. She approached my table. Charles, what a surprise. Can we please talk? I miss Kevin having his father in his life. Wednesday, she appeared in my store's parking lot when I left for lunch. Friday, she showed up at a restaurant where I was meeting a supplier, sat at the bar, made eye contact, smiled. Each time, I ensured I wasn't alone. Stayed in the coffee shop's crowded main room. Called my store manager to walk me to my car. Asked the supplier to stay until Jessica left. I recognized the tactic. Create situations that could be misinterpreted, then claim harassment or worse. My phone stayed in my pocket, recording every encounter. Saturday afternoon, Jessica appeared at my store again, this time in workout clothes. Tight, strategic. She waited until other customers left and approached my desk. I wanted to apologize, privately. Can we talk in your office? I stood but didn't move toward the office. Anything you need to say can be said here. My assistant is right there. I gestured to Sarah, my store manager, watching from 10 feet away. Jessica's voice dropped, intimate. I think we got off on the wrong foot. I understand why you were protective. Maybe we could start over, just you and me? Her hand moved toward my arm. I stepped back. Sarah, could you join us, please? Jessica was just leaving. That evening, I met Barbara at the Phoenix Art Museum, our fourth date, though neither of us had called it that. We walked through the contemporary wing, discussing a sculpture that reminded Barbara of a book she was reading. I found myself smiling genuinely, something I hadn't done since before Kevin's engagement. Over wine afterward, I told her about Jessica's attempts to corner me alone. Barbara's face tightened. She's setting a trap. Classic Jessica. Create a situation where it's your word against hers. I know. I'm documenting everything. Never alone. Always recording. She touched my hand. I hate that you have to live like that. But I'm glad you're being careful. The touch lingered longer than necessary. Both of us noticed. Neither pulled away. Over the next 2 weeks, Barbara and I fell into a rhythm. Coffee twice a week, dinner on weekends, long phone conversations about everything except our children. Barbara introduced me to contemporary fiction I'd never have read. I discovered I liked it. I took her to a symphony at the Scottsdale Center for the Performing Arts. She cried during the Brahms. One evening at her townhouse, reviewing legal documents became background noise to conversation about our lives before the damage. I talked about my late wife, 8 years gone, how I'd stopped living and just maintained. Barbara shared about her ex-husband, the loneliness of raising difficult daughters alone. Neither of us said, I'm falling for you, but both knew. Late one night, I sat in my home office staring at the framed photo of Kevin from his high school graduation. My phone buzzed, another blocked call, probably Jessica. I thought about the PI reports, the bank intervention, the careful documentation of Jessica's seduction attempts. I was protecting my son, but Kevin saw it as warfare. The question gnawed. Was I helping or just punishing? Barbara's text arrived. Stop overthinking. You're doing what's necessary. Get some sleep. Sunday morning, Barbara and I met at our regular coffee shop. A corner table had become ours. She slid her phone across. Amanda posted this yesterday. Read the comments. The Instagram post showed Jessica and Kevin apartment hunting. Caption, New beginnings despite obstacles. Comments from Jessica's friends. Your future FIL is crazy. Can't believe he's still harassing you. Have you considered a restraining order? I felt public opinion shifting against me. Barbara, she's building a narrative, preparing for something bigger than seduction attempts. I met her eyes. Let her come. Richard has everything documented. We're ready. The certified mail arrived at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. I signed for it in my driveway, recognized the law firm letterhead immediately. Civil complaint, Jessica Simons and Kevin Powell versus Charles Powell. I read standing there, April sun already hot on my shoulders. The claims, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, interference with business relations, damages sought, $500,000. The narrative Jessica's lawyers constructed was polished. Defendant, motivated by jealousy and desire to control his adult son, fabricated audio recordings, sabotaged business opportunities, and publicly humiliated plaintiffs at their wedding ceremony. I read it twice, feeling cold fury build. That afternoon, I sat across from Richard in his downtown office. He'd already reviewed the complaint, made notes in red ink across every page. This is aggressive but sloppy, he said, tapping paragraph 3. They're claiming the recording was fabricated. We have metadata, timestamps, audio forensic analysis proving authenticity. He flipped to page 5. They claim you sabotaged business opportunities. They'd have to prove you were involved in the bank's decision. Anonymous tip means no proof. Can they win? Richard leaned back. Win? No. Make it expensive and painful? Absolutely. Discovery will be invasive. Depositions, financial records, witnesses. Jessica's betting you'll settle to avoid the hassle. Not happening. Richard smiled. Sharp. Good. Because I've been preparing our counterclaim. Fraud, attempted extortion, blackmail. We have her previous victims willing to testify. The offshore account. Barbara's evidence. When we're done, Jessica won't be able to run this scheme again. I learned through a mutual business contact that Kevin had been fired. Not quit, despite what Jessica's Facebook post claimed. Mark called me reluctantly. Thought you should know. Kevin's been missing deadlines, arguing with everyone. Finally went off on his supervisor last week. They let him go. I tried to process this. Kevin loved that job. Worked there 7 years. Mark continued. He's not himself, Charles. Looks exhausted, lost weight. Whatever's happening with that woman, it's destroying him. I hung up and immediately wrote an email. Son, I heard about your job. Please talk to me. Whatever you need, I'm here. This lawsuit doesn't change that I love you. I sent it to Kevin's personal email, his work email, his phone via text. All bounced back or went unread. Jessica had blocked every channel of communication. Over the next 2 weeks, I wrote physical letters, handwritten on quality paper, each one different, apologizing for the wedding confrontation's public nature while defending the necessity, explaining the evidence I'd found, offering to help financially without conditions, reminiscing about our past together. I mailed them to Kevin's old apartment address. None were returned, but none were answered. I imagined Jessica intercepting them, reading them first, deciding what Kevin saw. The silence was worse than Kevin's anger had been. It meant complete isolation. Barbara called me on a Wednesday evening, voice tight. Amanda just told me Kevin's selling his apartment. I felt the floor drop. That's his only asset. He bought it 5 years ago. Jessica convinced him they need the money for legal fees and living expenses until he finds work. Amanda said Jessica has a real estate agent already lined up. It'll sell fast. Good area. Nice unit. I did quick math. Kevin bought it for $240,000, probably worth $290 now with Phoenix's market. After his existing mortgage, maybe $80,000 in equity. Jessica would burn through that in months, leaving Kevin with nothing. Can I buy it? Through an LLC? Keep Kevin from knowing? Barbara's silence told me she'd already considered and rejected this. Kevin would eventually find out. It would look like more control. I'm sorry. Desperate, I tried video messages to Kevin's phone, recorded myself in my living room, trying to sound calm despite the tremor in my voice. Kevin, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to look at the evidence with clear eyes. Jessica has an offshore account. She's done this to 3 other men. I can prove all of it. Please, just look at what I'm sending you. I attached PDFs, bank records, the PI report, screenshots of Jessica's LLC. The message showed as delivered but never opened. I recorded another. I know you can't hear this. Jessica's blocking everything, but I need you to know I would do it all again. The recording, the bank tip, everything, because you're my son, and watching you be destroyed would kill me. I didn't send that one. Too raw, too desperate. Late April evening, I sat in my home office surrounded by legal documents and evidence files. My phone showed the lawsuit timeline. Discovery starts in 3 weeks, depositions in 6. Kevin's life was imploding. No job, selling his apartment, drowning in debt, isolated from everyone except his manipulator. My intervention was supposed to protect Kevin. Instead, Kevin was worse off than before, and blamed me for all of it. The question that had haunted me since February surfaced with new force. What if I'm wrong? Not about Jessica. The evidence was overwhelming. But about the method, the public confrontation, the ongoing interference. Maybe some lessons can't be taught, only learned through pain. I drove to Barbara's townhouse without calling ahead. She opened the door, saw my face, and pulled me inside without questions. We sat on her couch, her hand in mine, while I voiced the doubts. Kevin's life is falling apart. Maybe if I'd handled the wedding differently. Private conversation instead of public recording. Maybe if I'd let him take the loan. Learn the hard way when Jessica disappeared. Barbara listened completely before responding. Jessica destroyed 3 other men's lives before Kevin. You had proof she was blackmailing you. What were your options? Pay her. Let her keep extracting money? But Kevin made his choices, she said firmly. You gave him information. He rejected it. You can't protect someone from themselves forever. She cut my face. You're not cruel. You're not vindictive. You're a father watching his son make terrible decisions and doing the only thing you can. Building a record so when Kevin finally opens his eyes, there's proof. The truth doesn't stop being true because it's painful. I leaned into her touch, feeling something loosen in my chest. That weekend, I met with Richard to finalize the legal response. He had prepared 2 versions, defensive and aggressive. Defensive keeps things quiet, Richard explained. Aggressive makes this very public, very ugly. Jessica's previous victims would testify. Her financial schemes get exposed in detail. But Kevin's name is attached to the lawsuit. He'd be dragged through it all. I stared at both documents. My son's signature was on the complaint against me. But my son was also a victim, manipulated into attacking his own father. I chose the aggressive option. Kevin needs to see the full truth, even if he hates me for it. Late that night, Barbara and I walked through her neighborhood, the desert air finally cooling. When this is over, the lawsuit, the exposure, everything, Kevin still might not forgive you, she said. I know. Can you live with that? I thought about the past 3 months, discovering Jessica's scheme, the wedding confrontation, losing Kevin, finding Barbara. My answer surprised me. Yes, because I'll know I did everything possible to save him, even if he never sees it that way. The Maricopa County Superior Court building rose from downtown Phoenix like a monument to order, all glass and concrete fighting the June heat. I sat at the polished defense table beside Richard, watching Jessica's lawyer arrange papers with practiced confidence. Judge Morrison presided, mid-50s, sharp eyes, a reputation for demolishing frivolous lawsuits. Jessica's attorney, Davis, delivered his opening statement with theatrical flair. Charles Powell, jealous father, controlling manipulator, destroyed his son's happiness from pure spite. Kevin sat in the gallery behind Jessica, wearing an ill-fitting suit. He'd lost weight. His face was pale, unreadable. Barbara sat alone 3 rows back. Our eyes met briefly. She nodded encouragement. Richard waited beside me with predatory patience. yellow legal pad covered in notes, 3 evidence boxes stacked at his feet. Jessica took the stand, swearing oath with practiced sincerity. Her lawyer guided her through the narrative. She'd fallen in love with Kevin, was excited to join his family, but Charles had been hostile from their first meeting. He questioned my finances, investigated my background without permission, then recorded a private conversation where I was joking, poorly I admit, about needing a house. Her voice trembled perfectly. He played that recording at our wedding in front of 200 people. It destroyed everything. Kevin lost his job from the stress. We lost our savings, all because Charles couldn't accept someone loving his son. She dabbed her eyes with tissue. Richard didn't cross-examine aggressively. He asked 3 questions. Ms. Simons, how many men have you dated in the past 5 years who were significantly older and financially established? Jessica hesitated. I don't see how that's relevant. Richard smiled. Your Honor, it will become very relevant. Richard began methodically. Your Honor, this isn't about a father's jealousy. It's about a documented predator who has run this identical scheme on at least 3 previous victims. He presented the audio forensic analysis first. Expert testimony via deposition confirming the wedding recording was authentic, unedited, with verified timestamps and metadata. Jessica's lawyer objected repeatedly. Judge Morrison overruled each time. I'll hear the evidence, counselor. Next came Jessica's financial history. The credit report showing $43,000 in debt, the eviction, the collection lawsuits, then the Delaware LLC registration for Serenity Wellness Holdings, Jessica's name only, despite telling Kevin they'd be partners. The offshore Cayman Islands account, opened 3 weeks before the spa proposal. Bank statements showing the spa business plan was a shell for extracting Kevin's loan. Richard's presentation was surgical, each document building on the last. Kevin shifted in his seat, face growing paler with each revelation. The defense calls Robert Green. A man in his mid-40s entered, expensive suit, graying at temples, successful but carrying visible shame. He swore in, sat, wouldn't look at Jessica. Mr. Green, how do you know the plaintiff? I dated her 3 years ago, for about 6 months. How did that relationship end? Green took a breath. She told me she was pregnant, said it was mine. Then she said she needed $100,000 for medical care and to go away quietly. Or she'd tell my ex-wife I'd gotten her pregnant during our custody battle. My daughter was 12. I couldn't risk losing custody. What did you do? I paid $75,000, all I could raise quickly. 2 weeks later, she texted that she'd miscarried. Then she disappeared. Changed her number, moved, gone. He produced bank transfer records, text message screenshots where Jessica explicitly demanded money. The courtroom was silent except for someone's sharp intake of breath. Kevin's. Jessica's lawyer tried damage control. Your Honor, Mr. Green's allegations are unproven, and Richard interrupted. We have 2 more victims prepared to testify. Michael Torres paid $50,000 under similar circumstances in 2020. David Chen paid $30,000 in 2019. Same pattern, fake pregnancy, blackmail, payment, disappearance. He slid their sworn affidavits across to the judge. Judge Morrison read, face darkening. Jessica stood suddenly. Those men are lying. This is a conspiracy. Charles paid them to... Mrs. Simons, sit down. Jessica's lawyer whispered urgently, but she was panicking now, the composed mask cracking. I watched Kevin in the gallery, his face cycling through emotions. Disbelief, recognition, horror. Judge Morrison didn't deliberate long. I've heard enough. This lawsuit is not only without merit, it appears to be part of an ongoing pattern of fraud and extortion. She looked directly at Jessica. Ms. Simons, the recording Mr. Powell made was legal under Arizona law. The evidence suggests you did exactly what that recording captured, attempted to blackmail him for money. Your claims are baseless. The gavel came down. The complaint is dismissed with prejudice. Further, Mrs. Simons, you are ordered to pay defendants' legal costs in the amount of $47,000. Jessica's face went white. I'm also referring this matter to the county prosecutor's office for investigation of possible fraud and extortion charges. This court is adjourned. The gavel's crack echoed like a gunshot. I exited the courthouse into late afternoon heat, loosening my tie. Richard was triumphant. That went better than expected. Morrison doesn't make prosecutorial referrals lightly. Barbara appeared, hugged me briefly, propriety in public, but relief in her eyes. Then I saw Kevin standing by a parking meter, alone, looking lost. Jessica was 20 feet away, on her phone, back turned, voice rising in argument. I approached Kevin slowly. "Son." He looked at me, and for the first time in 6 months, really saw me. "Dad, those men, what they said." His voice broke, and I recognized the sound, his certainty shattering. "I know. I'm sorry you had to hear it that way, but you needed to hear it." Kevin's next words came hoarse. "The offshore account, the fake pregnancy, was any of it real?" I wanted to comfort him with lies, but chose truth. "I don't think so, Kevin. The PI found evidence she researched you before you even met. Your income, my business, everything. She chose you deliberately." Kevin sagged against the parking meter. "I quit my job for her, sold my apartment, sued my own father." I moved closer. "I know, and I still love you. That never changed." Kevin looked like he wanted to believe, but couldn't quite reach it yet. Jessica's voice cut across the parking lot. "Kevin, we're leaving. Now." Her tone was sharp, commanding. No more sweet manipulation, just control. Jessica strode over, grabbed Kevin's arm. "Don't listen to him. Your father paid those men to lie. It's all a setup. We can appeal. We can—" Kevin pulled his arm back slowly. First time I'd seen him resist her. "Jessica, they had bank records, text messages. That man was crying on the stand." Jessica's voice went syrupy. "Baby, he was acting. Your father is powerful. He has money. He can make people say anything. We have to stay together, you and me against the world, remember?" Kevin looked between her and me, mind visibly at war. I stayed silent. This had to be Kevin's choice. Finally, Kevin said quietly, "I need to think. I need space." Jessica's face hardened for one unguarded moment. Pure calculation, no love. Then the mask returned. "Of course, baby. Let's go home and talk. Just us." Kevin walked to Jessica's car, movements mechanical. I watched them drive away, Barbara's hand finding mine. Richard approached. "He's wavering. Give it time. Reality doesn't sink in instantly." I nodded, but the hollow feeling remained. I'd proved everything in court, exposed Jessica completely, won the legal battle. But Kevin still drove away with her, and that was the only victory that truly mattered. My phone rang during a furniture delivery review at the store. Mid-July afternoon, Phoenix baking under relentless sun. The PI's voice was urgent. "I've got something. Jessica's been communicating with Brian Miller, Kevin's old business partner." I remembered Brian. Kevin had cut ties 2 years ago over ethical disagreements. "They're planning to forge documents claiming you embezzled money. Kevin invested in your business. Bank transfers, falsified contracts. The works. They're meeting tomorrow night to finalize the forgeries." Cold fury flooded through me. After losing in court, she's going criminal? Desperate people make desperate moves. She's facing $47,000 in judgments, plus possible fraud charges. This is her last play. Send me everything, location, time, the intercepted messages. That evening I sat with Barbara and Richard at my dining table. Laptop open showing Jessica's message thread with Brian. Jessica's text. "The old man has money Kevin technically invested years ago. We can claim he never returned it. Add interest. Make it look like embezzlement. Brian, you keep 30% of whatever we get." Brian's response. "I can create backdated investment agreements, fake bank statements. Meet me at Dominic's Steakhouse tomorrow at 7. Bring cash for the documents." Richard leaned back. "This is conspiracy to commit fraud. If we call the police now, they'd arrest them." I shook my head. Kevin needs to see it himself. Hear it from her own mouth. Otherwise, she'll convince him it was entrapment or I set her up. Barbara touched my hand. "You're going to bring Kevin there. Show him who she really is when she thinks he can't hear." "Exactly? Can you get him there without Jessica knowing?" "Amanda owes me. She's starting to see what Jessica really is. I think she'll help." Next morning, I texted Kevin from a new number. He'd blocked my regular number months ago. "Kevin, it's Dad. Please don't delete this. I need to talk to you. Not about Jessica. About your mother. Something I should have told you years ago. Dominic's Steakhouse tonight at 7. I'll wait 1 hour, please." The mention of his late mother was calculated. Kevin always wondered about details I rarely discussed. 3 hours later, a response. I'll be there. 7:15. If this is a trick, I'm done forever. I coordinated with the restaurant manager, an old customer. I need a private booth with a clear line of sight to table 14, and I need you to seat a specific couple at that table at exactly 7. The manager, sensing the seriousness, agreed. I arrived at 6:45, took a corner booth with high back seats. Could see table 14, but occupants couldn't see me. At 7, Jessica and Brian arrived, were seated at table 14, 20 feet away. Jessica wore business casual, her serious meeting outfit. Brian was mid-40s, slick, briefcase on table. They ordered drinks. Then Brian pulled out folders. I've created everything. Investment contracts from 5 years ago showing Kevin put $85,000 into Powell Furniture. Letters requesting return of capital. Your father ignoring them. Jessica examined the documents, smiling. These look perfect. When Kevin sees these, he'll have to sue again. His father will settle rather than face embezzlement charges. My hands clenched under the table, but I waited. At 7:12, Kevin walked in, scanning the restaurant. I watched Kevin approach the host stand, searching for me. He hadn't seen Jessica and Brian yet. They were engrossed in their conspiracy. I texted Kevin, "Don't come to my table yet. Look right. Table 14. Just listen." Kevin's face showed confusion, then he spotted Jessica. He froze, 20 feet away, partially hidden by a decorative pillar. Jessica's voice carried in the quiet restaurant. Kevin's such an easy mark. He actually believes everything I tell him. I love you, baby. Your father's the enemy. It's pathetic how desperate he is to be loved. Brian laughed. You've milked him for what, 6 months now? No job, no apartment, sold everything? Almost dry. This forgery is the last play. We get Charles to settle for maybe $200,000. I take my cut, pay off those court costs, and disappear. Kevin won't even know I'm gone until the lease on our apartment bounces. What about the kid? Still playing pregnant? Jessica's laugh was cold, empty. Please, there's never been a kid. That idiot believed it without even seeing a test. I watched Kevin's face from across the restaurant. It was the face of someone watching their entire world burn. Kevin's knees buckled slightly. He grabbed the pillar for support. Jessica continued, oblivious. The recording at the wedding was my only mistake. Should have checked for devices, but even after that disaster, Kevin stayed. They always stay longer than you expect. She took a sip of wine. Men like Kevin, desperate for validation, daddy issues, isolated, they're perfect targets. You just tell them what they want to hear and watch them hand over everything. Kevin turned, saw me in the corner booth. Our eyes met across the restaurant. Everything Jessica said, every lie, every manipulation, it was all visible in Kevin's expression. I nodded toward the exit. Kevin walked out, moving like a man underwater, and I followed. I found Kevin in the parking lot, leaning against a car, face in his hands. He wasn't crying, he was beyond tears, in that hollow space after catastrophic loss. I approached slowly. Son. Kevin's voice came muffled. You tried to tell me. At the wedding. After court. In every letter. I called you jealous, controlling, bitter. You were in love. Or what you thought was love. She's very good at this. Kevin finally looked up. I sold my apartment. Quit my job. Sued my own father. For someone who just called me an idiot. Who was never pregnant. Who was never anything real. I moved closer. You weren't blind, Kevin. You were manipulated by a professional. There's a difference. I lost everything. I have nothing. I am nothing. I pulled my son into a hug. First physical contact in 8 months. You have me. You've always had me. That never changed. Not once. Kevin broke then, sobbing against my shoulder like he hadn't since childhood. I held him, feeling something fundamental shift back into place. Inside the restaurant, Jessica looked up to see police officers approaching. I'd called them before Kevin arrived, had them waiting. The forgery documents, the conspiracy on audio, the open warrant from the judge's fraud referral, it all converged. Jessica tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Brian was arrested alongside her, both charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and forgery. By morning, Jessica had fled Phoenix on bail, skipping town in the $47,000 judgment. I didn't pursue her. She was out of Kevin's life, and that was the victory that mattered. August arrived with Phoenix monsoons washing the city clean. Kevin moved into my guest room temporarily, started therapy, began job hunting. The process was slow. Rebuilding a life takes longer than destroying one. But I watched my son gradually return. Smiles at breakfast, interest in conversations, plans for the future. One evening, Barbara and Kevin and I sat on the back patio. I took Barbara's hand. "We have something to tell you. Barbara and I are getting engaged." Kevin's reaction surprised us. He grinned. "About time, Dad. She's way too good for you." Barbara laughed, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Late August, I hosted a small engagement gathering at my home. 20 close friends. Nothing elaborate, everything genuine. Barbara wore a simple blue dress, her smile radiant. Kevin stood beside me as the main witness, healthy weight returning, clarity back in his eyes. When it was time for toast, Kevin tapped his glass, stood. "I need to say something. For months, I thought my father was the enemy. Controlling, jealous, trying to ruin my happiness." His voice steadied. "But the truth is, sometimes, the biggest act of love is saying no when everyone else says yes. It's standing between someone you love and danger, even when they hate you for it." Kevin looked at me. "Dad, you saved my life. You let me hate you, sue you, cut you off, and you never stopped trying to protect me. That's not control. That's love. So thank you for not giving up, even when I gave up on you." My throat tightened, but I managed. "You're my son. I'd do it again. Every time." Kevin raised his glass. "To Charles and Barbara, two people who know that real love means telling hard truths and standing firm when everything says to walk away." The small gathering applauded, glasses clinked, and I looked around. My son restored, a woman I loved beside me, a future built on ruins. The revenge wasn't destroying Jessica, it was this, saving Kevin and finding Barbara. That's the victory that matters. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.